On October 23rd, 2025, Valve added one new way to get a knife in CS2. You could convert 5 covert skins for a knife or a pair of gloves. Within hours, the CS2 market had lost roughly $2 billion in estimated value. Some knives were cut in half, while certain red skins suddenly became worth far more because they had become trade-up inputs. And Valve did not stop there. They changed how souvenirs work, introduced new ways to obtain major stickers, and kept rewriting the rules of an economy that players had spent years trusting. At the same time, player numbers have been falling, cheaters are still running around in Premiere ruining the game for most players, and bots are farming official deathmatch servers for free money. So why do I still have faith in the CS2 market? I think Valve is doing it all on purpose. They knew the market would crash, but they wanted to change the entire structure of the CS2 ecosystem. They wanted to give skins that were collecting dust a new purpose, but in the meantime they threw away what they had, market crashing, core players cashing out, and the trust is basically gone. But I do think a comeback is possible. So in this video we are going to look at why players have lost faith in CS2, how Valve's updates have changed the entire skin economy, and why these decisions might not be as brain dead as they first appear. By the end I'll explain whether I think Valve is accidentally destroying the market or deliberately rebuilding it into something more sustainable for the future. The first problem is player numbers. For 5 consecutive months, the average player count has been falling. That is something we have not seen in Counter-Strike since 2021 in CSGO. And while a falling player count does not automatically mean the game is dying, it is still a pretty obvious warning sign. A healthy game needs players. Players create matches, content, demand for skins, and they even create activity in the market. So if fewer people are playing, fewer people are likely to buy skins, open cases, or care about investing in the economy. But why are people leaving? The biggest reason is probably cheating. Cheaters have been a problem in Counter-Strike for years, but the current situation feels especially bad to a lot of players. Streamer and YouTuber Renyan has repeatedly spoken about the state of cheating in Premiere. He wrote on X, "This is the worst season out of all of them. Like, how have you had 3 years to teach your dogshit state-of-the-art anti-cheat to detect spin botting and you still can't do it?" In another post he said, "My 8 last games have had an average of 3 cheaters on enemy team and sometimes a few on mine." Of course, one player's experience does not prove that every single match is full of cheaters, but Renyan plays a lot of Counter-Strike and has a high Premiere rating, so his experience is still relevant, and he's definitely not the only one complaining. You can find similar complaints all over the community, on X, on Reddit, it's basically everywhere. The problem is not just that cheaters ruin individual games, they damage people's trust in the entire competitive system. You shouldn't be wondering whether the enemy was using walls or aimbot or some kind of spin bot. Personally, I find myself checking Steam profiles before the match even starts to see if anyone has a better aim rating than Dunk, and that uncertainty makes the game exhausting, especially for the core audience who are trying to grind Premiere. Another related problem to cheating is botting. For the longest time, you can load into a deathmatch server and find bots running around on autopilot, farming drops or armory stars. And this has been happening for a long time, and it is strange that Valve still has such a hard time dealing with something that is often so blatant. It also creates another problem for the market. If bots can farm rewards around the clock, the supply of certain items increases without any real players being involved, and that can affect prices, create a worse experience for everyone else, and make official servers feel less trustworthy. There is evidence that Valve is testing a new version of Overwatch from CSGO, where players can review suspicious gameplay and help identify cheaters, and of course that is a good sign, but right now the community is still waiting for something more effective than promises and occasional ban waves. The next problem is the legal situation surrounding cases and skins. New York's Attorney General has sued Valve, arguing that Counter-Strike's cases promote illegal gambling. The argument is fairly straightforward. Players pay real money for a key, open a case, and receive a random item, and that item can be worth a few cents or potentially thousands of dollars. Valve disputes this and argues that skins are cosmetic collectibles similar to trading cards like Pokemon. Valve has also asked the court to dismiss the lawsuit, and the lawsuit doesn't automatically mean that skins are going to disappear, but it also creates some uncertainty. The community may hesitate to spend large amounts of money on skins if they think Valve could eventually be forced to change cases, keys, trading, or the way item ownership works, which we've already seen with no new cases, adding terminals, and no sticker capsule. So the confidence is going down, and when the confidence goes down, demand usually goes down with it. And again, it doesn't mean the entire market is doomed, it just means that some people may choose to sit on the sidelines until they understand what is going to happen. In my opinion, the biggest reason reason people distrust the CS2 market is the constant changes to the economy. In July 2025, Valve introduced trade protection. This allowed users to reverse trades within 7 days. This was not necessarily a bad update. It made scams and account theft more difficult, which is obviously good for normal players, but it also caused problems for marketplaces, cash traders, and third-party trading sites. It basically changed the way people had to think about trading. And then a few months later, the update that completely shook the market came. On October 23rd, 2025, Valve added the ability to use 5 covert skins in a trade-up contract to receive a knife or a glove, which I'm already sure you're aware because it's such a big thing. But yeah, before the update, the only way to get a gold item was by opening a case, and after the update, players could simply use 5 red skins. This changed the entire supply chain of the CS2 economy. There were already millions of covert skins in circulation, and many of them were relatively cheap before the update. Suddenly those coverts had a new purpose. At the same time, knives and gloves became easier to create, which meant that many existing gold items lost some of their scarcity. The market reacted violently. According to market tracking at the time, the total value of the CS2 skin economy fell by roughly $2 billion almost overnight. Some knives lost more than half of their value, while certain covert skins increased dramatically because they had suddenly become crafting materials. For traders, this felt like Valve had pulled the floor out from underneath them. People had spent years believing that certain items were rare because the rules of the system made them rare, and then Valve just changed those rules in one update. And that is the real problem. The issue is not just that prices went down, the issue is that players no longer know whether the assumptions behind their investments will still be true next month. And unfortunately, the changes did not stop there. On May 22nd, 2026, Valve changed the way souvenir skins worked. Souvenir skins could now be used in trade-up contracts, and souvenir and normal skins could be mixed together. This gave souvenir skins a new use, but it also damaged the value of certain older collection items. Once again, players discovered that an item they thought was valuable because of the scarcity, now with one update, became a lot less rare and lost a lot of its value. The recent major sticker changes caused another wave of frustration. Players bought stickers expecting they were safe, because Valve said that if the prices fell a lot, they would get refunded. Then Valve introduced similar looking stickers with a square design and much lower prices. That upset a lot of people in the community as well. And this sticker system also matters for the esports scene. Teams and players rely on sticker revenue as an important part of the financial model around majors. So this new way, where a lot less stickers get sold, can create problems for organizations in the long term. The CS2 esports scene is great, but it needs a sustainable way to make money. And the esports scene of course also drives in new players. So if the esports scene start lacking, that is bad for the economy as well. So the problems are not only about skins. A lot of players also feel that CS2 does not receive enough meaningful gameplay content. We have had updates, map changes, and technical improvements, but many players are still waiting for something that gives them a reason to keep playing beyond the normal competitive grind. And yes, we did get cash, but Overpass was removed from the active pool to make room for it, which was another map that was new. So we get one new map, but remove another map that is sorta new. Also, players rarely get to play cash in Premiere, because a lot of people will ban it to play the maps they already know. I low-key think they should shake the bag a bit and should have replaced Mirage or Inferno with cash instead of Overpass. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, and also subscribe and like and follow along, it would mean the world to me. Thank you. But the bigger issue is that Counter-Strike lacks a strong progression system. There's no real reason to play a few extra matches beyond improving your Premier rating, earning drops, or getting armory stars. Even content creators from the community have started building their own operations and battle pass style system, and this just shows how down bad the community really is. Valve is clearly capable of creating this type of content. They recently added an operation to Team Fortress 2, so it's not like the concept is impossible for them. They could just give players simple objectives like get 20 kills with a negative in deathmatch, get 3 headshot kills in 1 round, win 5 wingmans with a friend. It doesn't even need to be revolutionary, it just needs to give players a little more purpose when they launch the game. So after all of that, why do I still believe in the market? The first reason is the cheating situation. Valve has continued banning accounts, and they are experimenting with new systems for reviewing suspicious players. A working anti-cheat would make a massive difference to the average player. I'm not saying the cheaters will 100% be gone, but if players stop encountering obvious cheaters, they have a reason to start playing more seriously again. And if more people play, the rest of the ecosystem benefits. More players means more matches, more content, more community activity, and potentially more demand for skins. The problem is though that the community does not see most of what happens behind the scenes, which makes it easy to assume that nothing is being done. And don't get me wrong, I definitely think Valve could be doing more. They earn so much money and could easily afford to hire 50 extra developers and speed up the anti-cheat process, but I do think they are working hard to make something happen. The second reason is that the market could be benefiting in the long run from these supply chain updates. Now let me explain that for you. Cover, classified, restricted, and mil-spec skins are now trade-up materials for the gold. When opening a case, now you'll definitely also be happy when you're getting a cohort, because it isn't just like worth $4. Souvenir items also gained a new function where they aren't just sitting and being useless free cent skins, they can now also be traded up. And yes, that can be very terrible for people holding before the updates, but it does not necessarily mean that CS2 doesn't care about the market. It could mean that Valve is trying to create an economy that is sustainable long term. And this is a bit where my theory comes in. I don't believe that Valve wants to create uncertainty, because that would just be shooting themselves in the foot, but I also don't think that Valve doesn't know what they're doing. They probably knew that they were creating uncertainty and crashing the market, but they want to strengthen the economy long term by first fixing the ecosystem problem, like cohorts being worth a fraction of the golds. And I think we will see potential operations or other stuff once the cheater scandal has been solved. I also do believe they are somewhat greedy, because they could easily afford to hire a bunch of new employees, as we talked about, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're completely brain dead trying to kill the market, because you gotta realize what's at stake for them. If there is no demand, then people won't be opening cases, they won't be buying armory passes, which ultimately ends with hurting Valve's earnings. So you may wonder what I would have them do to solve the problems. Well, first they need to fix cheating, not eventually, not with vague promises, but they need to make the average player feel that their competitive games are worth taking seriously again. Second, they need to stop surprising the community with changes that completely rewrite the economy overnight. And thirdly, they need to add a meaningful gameplay content. Something like operations, missions, better progression, new game modes, or even small objectives would give players so much more reason to keep launching the game. So do I think the CS2 market is guaranteed to recover? I do not think every skin will return to its previous price. Some items may never recover, some investments are permanently damaged by Valve's updates, but I also do not think the market is dead. CS2 still has an enormous player base, powerful brand, one of the most established item economies in gaming, and a company backing it with lots of resources. The market we knew before October 2075 may be gone, but that doesn't mean that there cannot be a new market after it, and there's still money to be made in the market, investing, and so on. My theory is that Valve is sacrificing short-term stability in order to build a more controllable and active economy in the long term. And that strategy definitely could work, but only if Valve can restore the most important thing it has lost: trust. Because if players stop believing in the game, they will eventually stop believing in the market as well, which we already have seen. But that is why I still have faith in CS2, not because Valve has handled everything perfectly, but because the game and economy are still too lucrative for Valve to ever abandon. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and like. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.